Alrighty, y'all, we are back. We've got all the supplies we need today to keep on going. Rocking the old Work For It work shirt. If you guys haven't been over to workforitapparel.com, these are back in stock. All the women's shirts back in stock. We're restocking all the men's stuff that's been sold out for a little while. And we're always bringing you guys new designs. So make sure you guys check it out, workforitapparel.com. There's always a link down in the description. Anyways, we've got one of the missing pieces to our puzzle here, which is our 2-inch receiver. And believe it or not, this comes from Amazon. I believe I remember Dedic ordering one of these for the K20. And you know, this thing was here. I ordered it last night and it was here this morning. So super, super rad. And it was only $17, which saves me from having to cut a piece of 2-inch and then drilling the hole. Plus it wouldn't have this flared end that these things have. So for $17, you can't beat the pre-made one. And this booger is gonna end up somewhere right there. I don't really know how we're gonna get it this way yet. Being that the frame rails are so far back underneath there, we'll get it figured out. Now this is a dump bed, so we need to take into account also, when the bed goes up, how far back this piece is gonna come. There's probably a reason it goes so far back past the frame rail. So let's raise her up here. And again, she does need a new hydraulic ram, but it should go up. Yeah. Maybe? Hold on. It's gonna take 2 hands, one to push the button, one to lift it up. Come on, booger. Oh yeah, there we go. Don't wanna spill my peanuts. Okay, so looking at this is definitely gonna be an issue. That's not all the way up. I mean, I don't ever foresee needing to go higher than that, but that is not all the way up. And you can see, I guess we can come out to about there. Might not be that bad. So looking at it this way, it looks like I think we're gonna be okay. If I mount to the bottom of this frame rail right here, and then obviously this goes up underneath, we should probably be about center on our support with welding this up to the 2x that's gonna be going across. But I think we shift her back just a little bit, and with some good gusseting she should work out just fine. But we still got plenty of room there. Again, this isn't all the way up, but I don't think we ever need to go more than this to get the bed to dump. We'll get the bed put back down here, nice and easy. I gotta say, for living outside for the last, I don't know, however many months ago we did this, everything seems to be holding up pretty good paint-wise. The bottom of that expanded metal right there has got a little bit of rust on it because painting expanded metal with a rattle can isn't that fun, and I was kind of running out and it was late, and so I know I didn't get really good coverage on the bottom of this expanded metal, but other than that, everything else is holding up great. Now, because one of the reasons I'm not a mechanic is I don't enjoy laying on the ground and working underneath things. I've got her raised up here. We'll lower her back onto some jack stands. That way we can get up underneath there and do a majority of our welding not super low to the ground. First piece we're gonna put on is we're gonna make our crossbar that I think I'm gonna weld underneath the frame. I was thinking about going in between these 2 frame rails, but being that this stuff is not the thickest, I feel like underneath it's gonna give me more surface to weld around. And in my brain, that seems stronger than if we were just to butt in and just try to weld on the sides here of the frame rails. Got us some 2-inch by, I don't know, 1/8 inch. Again, just using all scraps I'm finding in the shop here. We'll get this piece cut down to mount up there just like so. Let's get the old Milwaukee bandsaw fired up. So we are 38 inches there. Let's get us marked out here. I always like to square all the way around, especially when using a bandsaw. That way our cuts are nice and square. Dedic, again, thank you for selling me that for super cheap, but this like takes the pain out of dealing with steel and cutting and metal and welding and grinding. You know, a lot of this stuff I would have been out here with either a carbide cutoff saw or a cutoff disc on the grinder to cut this, and you know, you're getting covered in sparks and crap's flying at your face. This just makes it so nice. Let's do a little cleanup here so we can get to welding. Now I went ahead and cleaned up this back face too, because I think I'm actually gonna cut a couple pieces of steel and box this back portion of the frame in. I'd mentioned earlier that there were some welds along this edge here, so something was here at some point. It might have been a hitch that they cut off to be able to put the dump bed, I'm not 100% sure. Or looking at where that bed mount is, that could have been the original like frame came out to here, and that bed mount mounted into that, because obviously they added this whole sub-assembly here to make the dump bed. All right, let's get the old Miller Multimatic 220 here set up. Probably one of my favorite purchases I've ever made was this welder. And speaking of favorite purchases, these strong hand clamps are some of the greatest clamps. Dave uses these exclusively. It's where I had a lot of experience with them, and they are freaking rad. So obviously with this like little vise setup on here, it'll grab angles, it'll grab round bar, tubing, whatever it may be. But if you just want to use them for squared off clamping, that part unscrews. And then I use them a lot as just clamps like this, and just kind of keep these in a drawer somewhere in case you ever need them for round stuff. I'm gonna let it come just a hair past. That way, when we do end up capping this, everything will kind of flush out depending on what thickness I guess I use for that. And hopefully this Chinese metal holds up, because it looks like it's already torn right there, and it's not the strongest stuff in the world. Let's get the welder set to what we need. We're using 0.03 wire, 16 gauge. I think we'll kick it up to 14 gauge. We'll kind of split the difference and try and burn that in. I'm not a welder, so sometimes I just talk out my butt and hope things make sense. But that's also why I bought a machine that can do the thinking for me, at least get me close enough. I'm sure real welders will dial in these settings a little bit more, but this thing gets me close enough. Also, if you guys are in the market to deck out your hard hats, your welding helmets, your trucks, your binders, your water bottles, whatever it may be, we also got a ton of stickers over at workportapparel.com that are perfect for all that type of stuff. We don't need to talk about how not pretty those welds are over there. It's been a minute. All right, well, I'm slowly starting to remember how to weld here. I think that one definitely looks a lot better than the other side. We might grind down the other side and start over, but I've never done like a root weld where like, obviously this is radius, so it had that gap in between. So I've never really done where you weld first on the inside and then you come kind of fill that gap. So on the other side, the welding wire was like sticking up here and not going all the way into that corner. So definitely fought me a little bit, but we're looking pretty good here. I don't know how well that shows up on camera. So now that we've got these welded up, I want to make some gussets that go from there to there. So I've got some actual 3/16. So I'm basically gonna cut this square out, cut that diagonal, and then we'll have our two gussets to weld in. Just 3" by 3". I don't plan on towing anything gnarly with this thing. I don't think the truck has the capability. I mean, maybe we'll test it once we get this whole thing built, but this should hopefully be overkill and hopefully help make up for the lack of frame thickness there. Or I probably could just cut some rectangles and like weld it onto the side of the frame. I don't know what the right answer is. Now you can see with my weld there, obviously that won't get in the corner, so I'm gonna grind off just a little bit right there of that corner. That way we can get these nice and tight. And just like that, we are good to go. Now that we've got everything nice and welded up, our gussets are all welded in, I'm gonna make these little end caps. So I'm just basically gonna put a piece of cardboard over it and trace it. All right, let's see how badly we can screw up welding these edges all the way around here. Hey, it's actually starting to look like welds. Top's gonna be a little bit of a pain in the butt. We might be able to fake something in there. So one of the big things with me with welding is like you have to be able to see. So obviously there's like a lot of dark shadows up in here that really makes it hard to kind of see what you're doing. Granted, like when you pull the trigger, you're lighting up, you know, the sun over here, but it's different than having an actual light on the piece you're working on too. So I feel like I need a welding helmet with a headlamp built in. Then I'd be ideal. Okay, so we're just gonna focus on this side because I feel like for some reason the lighting's much better on this side of the truck. But I think we did a pretty good job there of getting that end cap sealed up. So I feel a little bit better that we've added a little bit of rigidity and strength to this thing. No point in fixing that little booger right there because, you know, look at the rest of the bed. Now, I'm gonna lower her back down here and I'm gonna figure out if I should mount the actual receiver portion down low or if we got room, maybe we can mount it up high there. Get this old girl lowered down. Pull out our jack stands. And down we go. But let's see what we're looking like in here. It actually looks like we've got room to go on top, which is cool. And we can honestly probably weld it even into this little support right here. I don't know how well that's showing up on GoPro, but there's room to go on top if we would like. Let's see what the 6.0 hitch measures off. It's about 16.5 to center there. So let's see where 16 inches would hit. It would honestly be like perfect if we went on the bottom. 16.5 is like dead center there. Or do we go on top? Now, before we get the hitch actually welded on there, Sergio just called me and he said my Amazon special Chinese LED lights that we're gonna be mounting on these things are there, so.
It's VIP service, VIP service.
Is this Uber Black?
Uber Black.
Sergio, this looks just like the Can-Am or the Razors.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
We don't need one, we got one right here. We'll put some long travel on this bad boy.
What do? No.
Oh. Send the bill to @CBailey619. He'll get you taken care of. Thanks, Sergio. I think I showed these earlier, but so these are nothing special. They are the nilites. Regardless, it was 2 of these for like $30. If they work halfway decent, I feel like I got my money's worth. All right, so after a little bit of thinking here of mounting it on the top or the bottom, this thing's already recessed pretty far back from the actual rear bumper of the mini truck. So by the time you put a hitch in, your ball's gonna sit about right where that license plate is. And that's not a good idea because that's in the way. And I don't wanna take off this super sweet work for a license plate. So we're gonna go underneath. I think that's more traditional how they mount these things anyway. So we've got our lines marked. We'll get her clamped in place. Now I'm not sure if there's like some science to how far forward or, oh geez, hold on. We should probably actually accurately clamp this. Now I'll go ahead and turn the heat back up on this bad boy because we are working with some thicker material. So I'm gonna set it to about 1/8 inch. Let's get her welded on. All right, now for the fun weld. Oh, getting up underneath here. All you guys that weld ships and all kinds of stuff where you're having to get into some crazy tight spots, it's impressive, let me tell you. Okay, so I decided to do 2 passes. Again, one in that little radius there, and then just come back and do a bigger one on top to kind of fill that void. But I think we're looking good, so I'm gonna make 2 more gussets here. Probably gonna make a gusset for the back right there. Again, not that we really need it because all of this is probably a lot stronger than the actual frame itself, and that's probably gonna fail before this hitch fails. I also went ahead and raised up the bed here. So that way I can get up in there and weld the actual back half of the hitch. And I gotta say, we nailed this by like as close as you can nail it. You can see with the bed all the way up where the license plate and just right where that rear bumper is right there. We've probably got about 3/4 of an inch of clearance, so job well done there. Granted, can't really dump the bed if there's a hitch on here, but small little detail. Pull the hitch off if you're doing whatever, you know, yard work or whatever you need the dump bed for. Plan ahead. It's just kind of like, you know, GM and their tailgate that hits your hitch. Same thing. That's about how much planning went into this as went into theirs. Now for these gussets, I went ahead and used my brain a little bit more there and actually just cut that little notch out with the actual bandsaw. I also went ahead and raised the truck back up because it's a lot more fun working at like a sitting height versus a laying down height. So we'll get our light back up in here, get this booger magneted on. Now it looks like my cut was a little out of square. I didn't use the factory edge of the steel. I just used one of the rough cuts from earlier. Whatever, we'll just get in there and fill that gap. Not that big of a deal considering I'm eyeballing half of this stuff and not actually putting lines and making sure everything's all nice and perfect. We'll turn our machine back down though. We'll go to 1/8 inch material. Alrighty, y'all, she is good to go. Everything's welded up. Put the little mini Gen Y we had off the Tahoe on there just to see how she would look. Chris, did I do a good job?
Not bad, man.
I mean, you showed up right when the work was done. What happened?
I was busy.
Oh, okay. Well, let's get this thing back on the ground. We'll see how close that Gen Y hitch is to the ground. I bet it's gonna be pretty close.
I have a question.
What?
You gotta lift. Why are you using these jack stands? Huh?
Broken down 6.0 on the lift.
Can Zach fix it?
And down we go. Look at that, dude. It's actually a good height right there. The Gen Y is a little much. But there's a chance, depending on, we'll see. Once we get an actual ball on there, we see how far back the ball is. We might need it like something like the Gen Y to extend it out a little bit, but I think we're gonna be okay. All of my trailers have really long tongues. The trailer we're gonna build for this is probably gonna have a decently long tongue. So we'll be all right and not worry about jackknifing and hitting the old sides of the bumpers there. Gave it a quick little primer job here with some self-etching primer. Now we're gonna give her the old Rust-Oleum gloss protective enamel. And just like everything else on this truck, everything is nice and rattle can painted. With a little bit of black paint on there, this thing looks absolutely factory. Look at that. Now the only issue is the old mini truck here doesn't want to start because I raised and lowered the bed so many times today. And we basically just drained that old battery that's on there. So we're gonna try and bump start it now. Put it in reverse, pop the clutch. But we're also gonna shoot for the narrow opening here. So we have to squeeze through the opening while Chris is giving it a good old push and not knock a mirror off. Now we have successfully done this in the shop in like a 10-foot run, so this should be plenty. Go. Benefits of having a manual here. Super easy. Pop the clutch, fires right up. Now, I was hoping Chris would have his dump trailer with him tonight. That way we could actually like try towing something with this, even though the dump trailer is a little bit bigger than the trailer we're gonna end up probably building for this, but I can't really find a size that I like that's actually in stock. We'll see. I think tomorrow he might have his dump trailer here and then we can give this thing the old tow test and see if she actually can pull something. But with that, we're gonna wrap up. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're not subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button now so you do not miss out on any future content. Don't forget to give this video a like and get a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out workforapparel.com because if there's anything you want in this life, you gotta be willing to work for it. You guys are the best. I'm out.
Damn. Yeah. Yeah.